So our next panel, as I was saying, is we're very fortunate that all of the people on this stage work for the same amazing, lovely company that I work for, a company that's ran for almost 100 years, and we will be celebrating our 100th anniversary very soon. And across that 100 years, we've managed to be able to maintain a consistent piece of communication, a consistent culture, and really kind of continue to share the founding thoughts of the Bambi brothers. So we've a lovely panel of people here to talk about people and culture and how we've been able to maintain this culture across almost 100 years. So I'll hand over.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Out of the Box. Thank you for listening to us today. We have three wonderful guests today, starting from the right with Noon, our general manager from Marzocco, Thailand. Shout out to Noon, please. Welcome her.
สวัสดีค่ะ
We have Chris Salierno, our CMO, and Fatima Diouf, our guest experience at Accademia del Caffè Espresso. As a little icebreaker, I want to ask you a question. What's your fairest memory with coffee?
Ooh. You want to go first?
This is so I grew up in the United States. I moved to Italy when I was 23, and I grew up in Florida. And my first memory with coffee, I'm a son of Italian people, and I was coming back and forth as a kid, and I would bring espresso coffee back to Florida with me because we had no espresso coffee back in those days where I was. You did in Miami and some of the bigger cities, but not where I lived. So I would spend the summertime in Italy with my family and come back home, and I'd bring coffee with me.
Nice, very nice.
Well, my first memories that I know that I love coffee was when I was 11 years old. So my mom sent me to buy an instant coffee in front of my school. So she put on a very specific brand, Maxim. I don't know if you guys know. Maxim. Yeah, it's an instant coffee. And I was at the shop and there was like hundreds of brands. And I was like, why have to be this brand? So I saved the money and I tried to buy all the little ones and taste the coffee of all different instant coffee brands. So I'm also an expert for instant coffee.
Oh,
actually.
I love that.
So that's my memory. Yeah.
Nice, very nice.
Well, for what concerns me, my first memory when I think about coffee is I was striving to have the first cup. I was waiting for my 14 years old so that my mom would allow me to have the first one. And first one was with sugar. So for probably better not say, but yeah.
The right coffee is the one that tastes good for you, I think.
That's right.
Since today's conversation is about people and culture, want to start with the topic around defining culture and ask Chris a question. What does culture mean to La Marzocco, and how does this evolve as the company has grown with almost 100 years now?
So we talked about this yesterday. We had a partner summit with our importers and our branch offices and colleagues. And culture, as we define, is really, the way we think, the way we act and interact with each other. And our culture has been, we have defined our culture over the years through the leadership that has been guiding us before us. From that, we have identified a set group of values which are our compass, the way we look and the way by which we guide and make our decisions. And I think it doesn't stop there. What you need to do there then is define behaviors so that people know how to enact and keep the values alive when they come to work in the morning. And this is something that we've brought a lot of intention to. We've built a program around it for our newly hired staff in Italy and around the world. And as we grow, we try to keep it very intentional. In fact, I think it's interesting. The group you have here today is very diverse. I've been here for a long time in our company and in coffee, while Noon is a new member of our family. And so I hope today we can give you some very different perspectives on our culture, but what you'll find is that they all kind of come back to the same place because we're very intentional about staying the course and keeping, remaining true to who we are as we grow.
Wonderful. Noon, you're the new member of the family. Everyone is happy to have you on board.
I hope.
Not that we have to say, but actually. You've worked deeply in both local and global contexts.
Yeah.
How do La Marzocco's values translate across different cultures and countries in your perspective?
So being in coffee for quite a long time, since I was a baby actually, because that was when I was 20. So when we think about coffee about like 16 years ago, you know, you only see, doesn't really know much, and the Google wasn't there and stuff. So what you're actually going for is the cafes that recommend in the book. So all those books, you're gonna find like a great cafes that got recommended, and you're gonna notice a few things. If you like being observant enough, you're gonna notice that, oh, all this great coffee has one thing in common. It's the machine. So I starting to track down all those cafes that have La Marzocco machine. And I got lucky enough that since my first job, I travel a lot. So every business trip, I track down all those cafes, and without because you don't really know if the coffee would be great at the time. There's no Google review and stuff. So I would just go randomly and looking for La Marzocco. So why I'm saying this, that is like translated as a culture, is because that is how, even for someone at the time, like I was a kid and I didn't know much about coffee. But that's how I actually see it as a statement of the cafe, that, okay, this is a great cafe. And every time I go in the good cafe like that, people always nice. Like that's how you always roll in each city too. That you go in there, the barista talk to you, and then you ask like where to go next, like where to eat. And then they will be giving the best recommendation. And then you get to know more about people, more about the culture in each country by just going out to these cafes. So I think it's really like something that opened the world for me so much, just because I tracked down La Marzocco machine.
Love that. I mean, we all, I think, before working at La Marzocco myself, used to do the same thing. Looking if they have a La Marzocco machine, I would go and drink coffee. And I believe, hands up if you would look if the cafe has a La Marzocco before going in. Here we go. So yeah, that's a very good perspective around it. Bring it to like-minded people and tasteful people who appreciate quality. Fatima, for you, can you describe a moment that comes to mind when you think about La Marzocco's culture?
Yeah, this is also something that I usually say during my visits. It was actually my second or third day of work, I think, at La Marzocco back in October 2021. We had a sort of gathering event after host, as we will be having next week. And it was right after COVID. So it was actually the first time that the entire global community of La Marzocco met with each other. And I remember how passionate and enthusiastic all of my colleagues were. I was sort of an outsider back then. Again, it was my third day of work, but you could see that in between staff and clients, it was way far above the product. It was, again, about the relationship and the values that we're sharing.
Sounds like great onboarding you had.
When you asked about our values, the values that guide us, right? So we have 5. And it's important to share this with you because Fatima, for example, is one of our youngest in terms of age, even though she's been here for a few years, members of the team, but she's an ambassador, one of the most important ambassadors we have in Italy, because we host 4,000 people this year. We'll host over 4,000 people this year to academia, and they see Fatima. She's the first person, one of the first persons people meet when they come and visit us. But so we built this, when we talk about culture, we built a culture that encompasses these values, and the values are integrity, which is pretty straightforward, right? Doing the right things for the right reasons, partnering with the right people. Impact, which is the relational component. It is a company that has sustained 100 years, almost 100 years of growth that have been built on good relations. And the good relations began with the Bombi brothers and Piero, and then translated to Kent in an era of leadership in the United States, to the five managers that are part of the company today, and now there's an evolution with a larger group in the DeLonghi family. But all of this, the common thread in 100 years is celebrating great relationships and making impact and doing good. And so that's the second. Third is curiosity. The curiosity is all about bringing a curious, proactive mindset to work, and in thinking, how can we innovate? How can I do what I do better? How can I do something better and bring innovation to my work, not only my product, but the way we work? And that is curiosity. Fourth is courage, which is kind of the foundation amongst everything, because you can't sustain any value if you're not courageous. And we're definitely crazy people, courageous people. And it's in the lion, right? So the lion's all about courage. Seizing opportunity. Even if it doesn't sound, so for granted at the moment. The fifth is celebration, which is what Out of the Box is, and what all of this is about. Being together and being with all of you is about celebrating not only our brand and each other, but the local coffee communities when we host events around the world. So the purpose of me sharing this, and I'm sorry if I take a little bit more time, is to create this value set where young people, whether it be Fatima, that is a young person, or Noon, also young with respect to me, but a senior coffee professional, but young in our company, where they can become and feel that they're motors of our growth and ambassadors to the brand. And then they do your marketing. They do the marketing for us, because they're more enthusiastic than they're just as enthusiastic to be part of our company as our customers are. And that's kind of the goal. I think that's what we've been working hard to create. We started very unintentionally, and as we've grown, we've gotten a little more intentional about it, but that's the goal.
Thank you, Chris. That makes me actually skip the next question, because that was already the answer in.
Sorry.
No, all good, so fantastic. Fatima, how do you ensure visitors and guests receive the warm hospitality from La Marzocco when you welcome them at Academia? Like, as Chris mentioned, you're welcoming around 4,000 people, and that you're the first person they're seeing, and they're getting the first experience from you. How do you ensure that experience keeping alive?
Well, here I have to quote Silvia Bartoloni for this, but the key in this case is listening. We don't consider our guests as visitors. For us, are like guests as if they're coming in our home, and in order to do so, we have to understand what's the background. Where are they coming from, what they're looking for, what they want out of their experience in Academia. So, yeah, I would say that probably by making every visit and every entrance in Academia the most tailored and the most special for that single guest that we have.
And even for us as employees, every time we go to Academia, it feels like always warm, always welcome, and you feel like you're coming back home. So it's definitely an experience for people coming for the first time and people who are going there again and again and again, for sure. Noon, what are some of the ways you cultivate the team culture at La Marzocco Thailand?
That's interesting, because I don't have a team yet.
I know. Let's put it this way. In the future...
We are setting up. But let's say this. I am new as an employee for the company, but I've been working as a distributor for La Marzocco since 2017. And one thing that I find interesting so much about just the brand itself, it's really much to do with the culture. The first time I visited the factory, and I was like, whoa, this is something else.
When was this?
2017.
2017.
I was a baby. So, and there's something about that when we talk about culture, is what is culture? what is the definition of culture itself? Like, who create culture? So when we say like a global culture, it's like, what, are we having the same culture around the world? No, of course not. So it's really much to do like with people, connection, to become like a community. And when we have like a towards the same value, a mutual value that we share, and then it's become a culture. Like why we have a coffee culture, it's really something to do with like the people actually get along, like having to believe that, okay, we need this in the morning. Then that's become the ritual and the culture. And that is really interesting to me to have that and how to translate that into like, even in Thailand as well. I am now still the president of the SEA Thailand, and that is really something to really put that, and I would say I got lucky because to work with Marzocco as a distributor before and learn how people actually interact just within the company and also with the partner. That actually helps me a lot about understanding people. So how is actually, it's not just a personality, but it's more like active listening. So when I ask questions to anyone in Marzocco, they actually listen, like really listen to you. Because sometimes it's really big difference between hearing and listening. So it's not just that it's about hearing you, but they're really listening to you, and they actually like respond in the way that make sure that at least I understand or get something out of it or know the next direction that I have to go. So that actually helps a lot in my professional life, in my personal life as well. So to do that and translate it into like a Marzocco Thailand in the future, I think it's became quite easy, because what actually Marzocco is doing really well is because we have a set of value and the consistency in communicating that. So when we have a great value, when we have a great culture, but sometimes what is missing is a bridge in between, which is a good communication. And when we have this all together, it's easy to translate into any culture actually. So for how I'm gonna put that into Marzocco Thailand is always become like choosing the right people. Like the right people doesn't mean that who is right, but who is actually like share the same values. So that's gonna become the culture itself. Yeah.
Thank you. Moving forward to hospitality as a culture, as it's a big part of what we're doing at Marzocco. Chris, hospitality and storytelling go hand in hand. And how important is it to share Marzocco's history in creating a sense of connection?
This is a great question, and this also ties back to something I said yesterday. So I'm happy to see that the majority of the audience is different. Otherwise, you all think I'm just repeating myself. But we have hospitality is part of our DNA, and there's a reason for that, and it stems back to Kent and John and Joe and this generation of leadership that was, that started as our importers in the United States, but then Kent in the 90s bought the company from Piero Bambi with a group of friends, and all of a sudden you had a family company turn into a company of a handful of families in the United States. And these people were traveling, if you think about it, from Seattle to Florence without, in a moment where they didn't know Italian, there was no Google Translate. They were, putting a backpack, getting their luggage, jumping on a plane, and really they were explorers. And I think this is fascinating because with that, and once we began selling to Starbucks, and we went from a company manufacturing machines to serve the local community in Florence, to becoming really a paradox, the smallest company in the industry serving the biggest customer in the industry. With that, the relationship that Kent and his friends had created with Piero was all about, enjoying coffee together, conversation, and hospitality. And they brought this idea with them when they would come here, they would bring their friends, and they would open our little factory up to people from outside the coffee world. And that's also not so obvious in our industry, because we come from the coffee industry in Italy is an old traditional industry. It would be like going, maybe to the wine industry in France, champagne industry in France, and walking through the doors, opening the doors of La Remperie and touring the facility and talking about how you like to enjoy champagne and how maybe your way of enjoying champagne is different from the traditional way. But having leaders that weren't Italian and that were traveling to Italy and opening our doors and bringing visitors and exploring different ways of enjoying coffee together, kind of gave us this idea of hospitality and open-mindedness that stayed with us as we grow. And I think now a lot of people in our industry open the doors and the factory tours, but it's been part of our DNA. It's not something that we just started. It's been something that's been there for 40 years now. And that is why I think hospitality, apart from the fact that I think Italian people are we're hospitable people, but it's really embedded in our DNA. And I'd like to think that wherever you go in the world to visit La Marzocco, whether it be in Seattle or next year in Thailand, you'll have the same feeling. That's kind of the goal we're trying to create. Sorry to be long, but it's a cool story, I think. It's very unique.
Love it. And while we were talking about the history and will you share a bit, maybe many people maybe in the room have met Piero before, and how his philosophy was back in the days about people and culture, and how this stayed with us till today. If you can share maybe some words with us about Piero, as many of us unfortunately didn't have the chance to meet him.
Well, Piero is a very special person. So Piero grew up, our history is very, also as a small company, he had a different destiny. He was supposed to go into the textile business and move to Middle East. He had an older brother that was going to come in and work with his father and uncle in the workshop, who had passed away. So Piero never actually left. He came, worked for La Marzocco, and was our designer. So we design all of our machines. We've from the GS and the Linea Classic till now, we've always designed everything in-house because Piero's been our designer up until recently. And Piero was a fascinating human. And if I was to leave you with one story, with a quick story with Piero, is the fact that, I met him later on in life where I think he mellowed out a little bit, because I think he was probably pretty tough as a younger person. But one of the things he told me is that when we were walking through the factory and we were hosting a group of reporters, and somebody said, "Why did you sell the company?" And he said, "I didn't need to sell the company." He says, it wasn't out of need. He said, "I didn't have a vision for the legacy of the company. I don't have children, and I didn't have a plan. And I saw the vision and the legacy in Kent." And then he said, "When you love something as much as I love La Marzocco, you need to let it free." And I thought that was pretty cool.
That's a very nice story.
What will stick in my mind. Wings, roots and wings.
Love that. That's a very nice story. For you, Fatima, as a guest guide sorry, I mixed up. So you welcome people from all over the world at Academia. What do you think it's important to go above and beyond in creating a memorable experience for them?
Well, because it's what they bring home. I can give you actually a quick example. I saw today while working that a few guests that came this week in Academia are here today. The fun thing is that these guests already came a few times in Academia back in the years. I think this is what really is memorable. Creating, as we were saying before, such a tailored experience for our guests that then feel it as home and are willing to come back and sharing it with friends and kind of understand how things evolve, what we do new, and at the end we can almost say are part of the family. So I would say this.
Noon, I have working in the coffee industry for 16 years. Wow. That's a long time for being that young.
Yeah, I'm old, so much older than I look.
Okay.
Yes.
What's your secret? So, being in the industry for 16 years, how have you seen culture shift in the specialty coffee world? And where do you see this going?
In a global scale.
In a global scale, beyond just a specific market.
So I would say from what I've seen when I starting to really getting serious into coffee, it's people trying to find like at least like great cafes. Then it's become like artisan or roaster. Then something more like another that we call like a third wave, right? There's also like a few small wave, like we're going crazy about science of coffee. The water, the grind size. We do still now, but it's still under the same specialty level. So now is the innovation and things. Then all along this time, I see the shift that is really more toward emotional. And this is really important, and I think it's also the future as well. Yes, technology is the future. All this technical thing is the future, but also one thing is very gonna sustain in every business, I would say, especially in hospitality, it is psychology. When I talk about that, it also means to really understand people. People really attach to emotion and feelings. So that's the shift that I'm seeing in the future. Yes, all the tools, equipment is more technological, right? But also now that's why we use it. Everybody here using AI at least once. Love it or hate it, but you have experienced it before. And sometimes you're gonna find like it's very fascinating that sometimes it's actually give us a feedback that is very emotional and feelings. And that is also the future of hospitality. But us as a human beings as well. For emotional, what it means by that is like the next thing that you're gonna see in cafe is you're not gonna you will not feel impressed that, oh, he's such a good barista. He's such a great, this one is the best extracted coffee. But you're gonna really feel more about how they make you feel in that cup, the environment, the total experience as a whole. So it's really like, are they listening to you of what you're saying? Or is the barista actually reading your energy, whether you want to talk to them or you just want to grab and go? At least that is really something that is the next level that is going to shift. It's more like a customization experience. So the same cafes, but it's customized customer experience. So that is really something that, okay, equipment going to help. But us as a human beings, also in hospitality, also need to shift our mind that sometimes many people, you're going to find that, like also, especially introvert people, that when the barista talk to us, it will be like, and you're going to look like it's just a weird, dead air. So it's really much to do with like the one who actually doing the service, understand the person on the other side of the counter or not. So I see that shift and it's going to go more on the direction on that way. Yeah.
COVID was a very interesting time where people quite enjoyed having chat with a barista because that was like the person you could see every day in the morning while having mask and all that. So that was a very
but I like
interesting.
those time.
That was a good
People cannot
time.
because I have all these facial expression,
Yeah.
like too obvious. So I love COVID time that nobody can actually see what I'm thinking. Like.
Yeah. I have two more questions, and one for them for you, Chris. How do you motivate people in your team and in La Marzocco in general?
Motivate, being intentional about it. I spend, there are a lot of people usually either drift more towards project-oriented people or people. And I'm probably more of a people person than a project person. I spend a lot of time and I give a lot of thought to every decision I make around people because, I mean, in the end of the day, everything kind of starts there and finishes there. If you have happy people and your team are energized and enthused, and it's not always the case. And unfortunately for me to say, it's not always the case in marketing because you're really customer facing. And so there are moments where there's a lot of pressure on. Like to put this event together, there was a lot of pressure on. And so the people are feeling drained, they're tired. Today they're happy because they've seen a space that's full of guests and everything's working well. But the whole process isn't so linear, unfortunately. But the best I can do is really put my mind and my time to understanding that this is in effect a very important part of our work, and so I give a lot of thought to the people, and I don't know.
I can add to that myself from my experience. I think you feel as an employee at the Marzocco very rewarded when you do a good job, and there are people taking care of you, asking you how you're doing, and this is something very, very special, especially now that many people in some other industries maybe don't have that necessarily and start having conversations outside of the industry, and you realize it's a very healthy place to work with the love and care that we get, for sure.
Yeah, there are a lot of stressful moments. I think of it kind of. I grew up in the restaurant industry in Florida, so with my family, and I think of it kind of like a restaurant. Going in to have a great dinner in a restaurant, there's a lot that goes into it, from buying the ingredients to the chef that's cooking, to the waiter that's serving your meal. And the very last piece of that can ruin a great night. And usually maybe the waiter has less experience than the top chef. And so you have your newest, youngest people in closer to your audience sometimes. That's a lot of stress. So you have to manage it and be intentional about it, and try to embrace people and make sure they're okay, and reinforce the idea that this will be fantastic, and we'll get through this, and we're going to have a great time.
As it's tonight.
As it is today. Yeah.
I'm already in tonight. I'm already in later at the party. Last question to you, Fatima, before I want to ask a closing question to everyone. You welcome people from all over the world. And actually, I already asked that question, so we're all good. So, a closing question. If you could describe La Marzocco in one word or phrase, what would it be and why? Nuno, I think you would like to start, don't you?
Oh, I have too many words.
Pick one. You had 30 questions yesterday.
Nah, I think it's community. Community.
Absolutely.
It's really about a community. Whether it's like it's a joint community, and why is that? Is I see now we integrate more into like a fashion industry, or we are more on the lifestyles as well. So it became the small. We start off as a very small niche community, and now it's getting bigger and bigger. And I just love how to see the community grow into a particular culture around. And like now we have the word specialty coffee, but also in other industry they have specialty cheese, specialty wine, like they go specialty beer, specialty chocolate, and we can all integrate that together, and it's become the community. And I just love that.
We have also our friends from Porsche here with specialty cars, I would say.
That's too special.
How about you, Fatima?
I was about to say community too, so
sorry.
no worries. Another word that I'm usually using a lot when talking about La Marzocco is melting pot, which I think it relates kind of to community. And Porsche, it's probably the perfect example in this. It's about, welcoming people from all different pathways of life, but that at the end of the day find a way of communicating through that cup of coffee. So I would say it's this one.
Well, I'm not going to say community. But
Thank you
I
for
think
letting me answer first.
I think I already answered this one in that the common thread being, the relationships. And whether it be our relationship with Porsche, because what we did with Porsche and what we're doing, the work we're doing together is the result of a 2-year growing relationship that's been built since you mentioned Porsche, and the relationship and friendship that we've been able to build with the management in Stuttgart. But I think, we're about relationships. Our history's been about relationships. Our product is our purpose, the company purpose, for those of you who don't know, is La Marzocco builds relationships that enrich the lives of others. And La Marzocco has definitely enriched my life. I have been introduced to some of the most wonderful people I've ever met through work. I have that luxury. And our product enriches lives. Our product is built to be in cafes around the world as the motor horse of the best to finest cafes around the world, to enrich people's lives, to turn a product of nature into something that can be enjoyed, sold, and sustain families. So we play a part of that role, and I think it's around enriching lives and relationships.
Absolutely agreed.
Which is a different way to say community, I guess.
I think maybe we can take up to 2 questions if any of you would like to ask any question.
Hi, thank you. I found the panel great, very interesting. My name is Raisha. I'm a marketing capabilities specialist at Jakobsdau Experts. And I'm curious about, what you were saying, Chris, about motivating people. And I'm wondering how La Marzocco manages to create a culture of continuous learning, where learning can be something that drives engagement internally.
So, thank you for your question. I think motivating is also about, we need to equip our people. And this has been a challenge when you've grown so quickly. And we've gone from a few employees to now over 1,000 employees for our companies. I would have never thought we would have grown to be organically so many people around the world. One thing is equipping them, another thing is motivating them. And I think it goes to what Noon said, is when you let people become motors of our growth, when you create ambassadors and you try to engage them and they feel that they're part of something, but they also can feel that they can contribute with their ideas, then they're motivated to come to work and they have a higher purpose. Stupid story, maybe a little story, but the Linea Mini design, when we decided really to build out home, the idea came from one of our sales people. Said, hey, the Linea Classic is on the finest bars in the world. Why don't we replicate the design in a home machine? And I've worked in companies where your ideas weren't listened to or received. I'd like to think that this is a company where we receive everybody's ideas and contribution, and I think that helps to elevate motivation.
Hello, Chris. You don't have to go too deep on this one, but I wonder whether you think that people remove people, there's bad eggs, or culture removes people.
I think that people naturally drift in and out of environments, and I'd like to think that if the value set that we believe are our values in the company identify with you, you thrive and you'll enjoy your time with La Marzocco. And if not, you probably just will naturally drift. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. But.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Fatima, Chris, and Noon, for your chat.
Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for
Enjoy Out of the Box. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.